What is good, everybody? Welcome back to the UASO Academy. Today is a very special day because today is the day we put out our very first interview. Now, most of you don't know this, but I started the UASO Academy for the purpose of putting out interviews because I wanted to, reach out to people who have more knowledge and wisdom than me and bring that knowledge and wisdom not only to myself because I get to learn so much from these people. And you'll find out in this interview how much I learned. But not only that, but I want to bring it to you guys because you guys deserve to be educated and you guys deserve to be able to get a free education and learn about things that that you don't usually learn about in school, which you most likely won't learn any of this in school. Everything that was in this interview right here, I don't think I've learned any of that in school. I actually had to find that myself through motivation. Now, most of you may want to know who the interviewee is, and the interviewee is Miss Artia Thomas. She works at Da Vinci Communications and is actually my school's new school counselor, and she's also a certified therapist. We had a great conversation, and she'll explain herself and what she's done in the interview itself. But before we get started, there's one thing I want to know. One big thing I want to know is the fact that I kept calling her psychologist. She is not a psychologist. I was very embarrassed by saying that. I kept calling her a psychologist. I completely forgot. I think it was because I was nervous, but she's not a psychologist. She just works under psychology. So make sure you understand that. But let's get straight into the video. Enough talking. Let's get into it. Everybody, I'm here with Miss Thomas, Miss Artia Thomas. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Good. Miss Artia Thomas is a psychologist, and she is now a psychologist at Da Vinci Communications, where a lot of you are going to school currently. Some of you are not, and that's okay, but we'll get to learn more about her. Miss Thomas, can you kind of explain to everyone how you got into psychology?
I can. So I'm actually a school counselor at Da Vinci, and by trade, I am a therapist. So for purposes, I only clarified that because within a school psychologist generally does a lot of testing. And so my focus at Da Vinci specifically is school counseling. So how did I get into psychology, which is the overview of what I do? I took a psychology class when I was in high school, and it was partially because I wanted extra credit and partially because I needed something to do after school. I wasn't really interested in going straight home, and my school offered it, and so I did it, and it was imperative really in me getting to learn so much more about myself. It helped me understand my parents a lot more, and just really how people responded to certain things. I learned about triggers and reactions, and so I was kind of this 10th grader equipped with, the psychology of the mind.
Right.
Dangerous. Right?
Oh, it's dangerous.
Dangerous. So that is how I got into it. And then I was a 6th grade teacher at one point, and I met with a student who had a therapist, and I'd never gone through therapy before. I wasn't even really sure of, what that looked like. I didn't have any friends or family members who I'm sure they knew what it was, but it just wasn't a conversation or a topic. And I was able to talk to the therapist, and I worked a lot with my student, and I said, you know what, this is another way, to really help people. And you have access to their family, their history. As a teacher, you have very limited access oftentimes. So I then became a mental health therapist because that's what I do when I want to learn more about something, And I did that for a long time, and I worked in the community as a therapist, and I started a summer camp with the focus of emotional intelligence for kids. And then I decided to go back on a school campus and use all that I had acquired to help high school students. So that's where I am.
Wow, that sounds pretty fun. That sounds interesting and fun at the same time. I really like that. I love how you said learning about the mind is dangerous because just this year I started reading the 48 Laws of Power, and so that is a mind game itself. That book has mind game written all over it. So
it does.
As you learn about it, I see people different now. I can't look at them the same. I look at them and they'll say something or they'll do something. I'm like, you just went against the 48 law of power. You're gonna get yourself hurt, but you don't want to really say anything. And I've seen that. I saw someone who went against the law and they kind of messed themselves up. Like you could have prevented that. But I like how you mentioned that. Another thing you mentioned was that you had a summer camp. Kind of explain to everyone what that was a little bit more in depth.
So I held a summer camp in LA for elementary to middle school kids. And part of the journey to that is that I had a 5-year-old at the time, and I had put her in summer camps because I don't even remember what my job was at the time. But anyway, she needs to go to camp. I put her in a camp, and I wasn't happy with it. And the more I speak, the more you'll learn about me. My brain kind of went to like, you're an educator. You know how to do this. Open your own, literally, right? It was a very quick thought. So I researched, I read a lot. Luckily, I have a team of people around me, just my circle of support. I've always had people around me that were knowledgeable, supportive, wise, and that pushed me to do things that I was kind of uncomfortable with, but I could do. And so from that birth, creating the lab summer camp, and I've had it for 6 years. This will be our last summer, actually, because of COVID-19, so we won't move forward. But I was able to teach children, Black and brown children. That is how I started. A lot about their history, about their strengths, weaknesses, areas of improvement, how to mitigate conflict, really to believe in, the gift that was given to them, right? Kind of their inner strengths, and go forth with that. And it's been amazing. And over time, the area that my camp was held in changed, right? Different families moved in. So then it became more of a multicultural camp, but those lessons, were still given. And it gave my kids opportunities to learn about different cultures, outside of their own, and make friends that look different from them. And it was great learning opportunities. So there was an academic portion of it, but most of it really surrounded just social emotional learning.
And what was the response like from the students? And when I say that, how did they change over the course of that summer? Did you see any improvement in any area of the children?
So the most intense improvement I saw was around their self-confidence.
Good.
And so I'll give you an example. Some students came in at lower reading levels. And one thing that I constantly tried to explain to parents was that, oftentimes a kid literacy depends on their confidence and their ability to read aloud, to sound out words, literally to be confident enough to fail and be okay with it,
right?
Or to fail and try again. Oftentimes people don't want to fail. Kids really don't want to fail if they're being mocked for failing, and not by their families, right? But by other students, or they feel a way about their teacher's response. So we practice a lot of like positive reinforcement with our kids. So they did, and I personally didn't really like this in school, but we had them like line up and do their multiplication tables. And these are even like our kindergartners would line up and they would try, and it was a cheer. It doesn't matter if you can get your 1 times tables or your 10 times tables. Either way, we're going to cheer you along, and we're going to do it as a family. And so it gave our kids confidence to try and fail and try and fail. And when they went back into school, they led with that same amount of confidence, and their grades increased. So yes, we saw improvement in academics, but more importantly, we saw improvement in their ability to try something and not be afraid of failing.
Wow, and that's amazing, especially what you're doing, because one of the two things I noticed is that, one, you got the kids uncomfortable, right? They may have not liked being in that line of multiplication, but
right.
pushing them to get uncomfortable is now allowing growth to happen, right? Being comfortable doesn't allow growth to happen. Not only that, but two, something I preach a lot when I'm putting out some motivational videos or just speaking to people and trying to give them, some self-improvement. I tell them just to fail, sometimes just be willing and open to just failing and letting that embarrassment happen. Just let it fill you up, because, I tell people all the time, the average life expectancy is 78 years. So if you live to 78, one of these days you're going to be embarrassed. You're going to get failed.
Right.
So why not do it today? Why not face it today? And I think that's amazing that you did that. You taught those kids very young. Would you say that you have sometimes patients that come in with that level of they're kind of scared to go out there and jump out there in the world?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh my goodness, absolutely. I mean, that is often the root of a lot of anxiety and depression, just fear, right? And fear can be really, really paralyzing. And obviously there is, trauma that happens to people. That is the reason why they kind of walk through life fearing. but it is from, you know, a young child to an adult. And I truly believe that we should deal with people where they are, right? So we don't hold expectations for people based on who we are or where we are. It's really about their experiences. And when you can meet people in that place, they have no choice but to go, you know, higher, right? Because then they can create their own experiences for themselves. So yeah, I am a licensed mental health therapist, right? So I see clients outside of my students who are not my clients, but I see clients outside of my students, and it is a journey to almost like relive whatever traumatic thing, you know, occurred that stopped them from progressing in life, and to not fix it, but just to take that journey with them so it's corrected, I guess, right? Or reframed for them. So I see it a lot. I see it often. I mean, even as an adult, right, there still is this hesitance oftentimes with uncomfortable experiences or new experiences. One thing that came up when I was hired was like, oh my gosh, you were hired virtually, you know, were you nervous? And it definitely, I don't think it was until after I was hired that I realized, like, oh, Artia, you just took a job, you know, virtually. But my parents, to their benefit, my parents have always told me, and I have 3 siblings and we all are very different, but my parents always told me specifically, Artia, whatever you want to do, you can do it. And they didn't realize how much I would believe them. And so I literally, you know, would be like, if I want to be the president, I literally could be if I wanted to. Like, all I have to do is this, and this, you know. And for me, it was kind of a formula to things. Like, as long as I did the formula, I could do it. Unfortunately, that is not always the truth, because, you know, it's not as simple as if you go to college, you'll get a job, right? Or if you study, you'll get an A. That's the formula doesn't always equate, but what it does is gives you opportunities to try new things, you know, present new opportunities. And for me, what it eventually taught me was that a way will always be made. Like, if there's one door that closed, either you create another one or you find another one, you know.
And I think that level of self-confidence is not going to get you far, but a lot of people far if they can pick up on that sooner. You know, that is one thing that I think every child struggles with is self-confidence. You know, I have felt it. Plenty of my peers have felt it. It is something we all have to go through, but it really comes into the fact of, you know, if I can build this self-confidence, I can walk into things stronger.
Yeah.
But what always hits people is, like you said, just because you study doesn't mean you'll get an A. Just because you go to college doesn't mean you'll get a good job. It's what happens when the universe is trying to test you. It's like, oh, everything's going good.
Yeah.
You haven't taken your test yet, so I need to test you. And it throws that F at your way. It throws that broken leg at your way, or it throws that, you know, that disease your way. How can you get past this? You know, everything is, the table has been flipped, and you get into that uncomfortable situation. So when you get patients, would you say you get patients that are sometimes a bit maybe too comfortable? And if you do you have to kind of push them out their comfort zone to really get out there and build that self-confidence through, you know, going through the motions, you know, going through the success and the pain and the failures?
I don't think that are too comfortable, because then they wouldn't feel like they needed help, right? They're kind of content. Generally, I see people who something is disrupting their functioning, and so they need help kind of navigating that disruption. But if there are situations where people feel like they want to advance and are not advancing, whether it be like in their relationship or in their ability to navigate like their triggers or, you know, whatever, then absolutely. I mean, you have to try things that are uncomfortable, you know, like you said, and you're going to have things that make you feel unhappy, you know, and be unhappy. One thing I do get often is like, I'm not happy all the time, you know, and my answer is always, nobody is. Like, you know, kind of welcome to the club. That's not, you know, really life. James Baldwin said in an interview that suffering does not isolate you. Suffering is your bridge, right? And so one thing I like to often say is like, these experiences that you're having, though they are uncomfortable, they will help you help someone else, right? You don't have to be a therapist or a psychologist to be the light or give light to someone else. So while you're kind of going through the midst of this level of uncomfortability, don't just think about yourself, think about, the next person who's going to benefit from this experience and you coming out of this experience. So yes, I definitely think it's important to try new things, to challenge yourself, to know your limitations, but also to be mindful that we live for community, right? The things that we achieve are not just for us solely. And oftentimes they're not for us really at all. They benefit us, but it really is for the larger community.
Right. And I think it really comes down to thinking outside yourself and finding that level of like, why am I here? And when you figure out, I think I may be here to serve a greater purpose other than myself, then that's truly when you can find your own happiness. I see on social media all the time where people are saying, well, I hate that we're on virtual learning and I hate this and I hate that. And my family is annoying me and I'm so unhappy. And I'm like, look, everyone can complain about that. Everyone has a level of unhappiness, but it's a matter of, can you push through that? Can you get to the bottom line of, look, right, I'm not going to be happy all 360 days. So we might as well, figure out how to be happy on our own. We can't wait for something to come along to make us happy.
Absolutely.
That's one of the biggest things I wish people could really grasp. And so, I think when it comes to when you said, I think, what did you say? I think you said something earlier that really triggered me, but I think I forgot going on. So I think I'll finish with all I was saying. You said something I really forgot now, but I just really appreciated how you had that self-confidence. That self-confidence that you had earlier where you were talking about, look, if I could be the president, I could go out and do it. And it's that formula. That's why I try to tell people, look, just build that self-confidence, because when you're going through that motion and you get hurt, if you still have that self-confidence that you spoke about so highly of within, you just bounce back and you just make it stronger. It's like I usually tell people it's like metal, right? When you're hammering down on the metal, you're kind of thinning it out, put it back in the fire. You take it out and you keep molding it, you put it in the fire, you keep molding it, and it just gets stronger. And then you get a pointy sword that can kill. You get a formula that can really get you places. And I think that's one of the best things I got from that conversation. I think kind of moving on now, one question I have, a burning question I have is, what is your favorite part about being a psychologist?
Geez. I think, and I feel like I had this experience the other day, and I literally verbalized out loud to myself, like, this is why I do it. Mm-hmm. It's when people, and so let me answer your question first. It's when people have the aha moment. And the aha moment doesn't come from me telling them something, but it literally comes from them hearing themselves, right? And choosing to sit with their thoughts and realizing that what they need is within them the whole time. So that is, and that can be with, kids, adults. It really doesn't matter. I truly believe that, therapy can be many different things, but it also can come in, many different forms. Years ago, right, our ancestors sat on porches, and had conversations over tea or over, sweet tea, or whatever. That too is therapy, right? Yes, I have degrees, but it can come in so many different forms from so many different people. And that's just a process of like healing, and self-discovery. And if people really do the work of knowing themselves and what they need, and putting wise people around them, and it goes back to me saying, I knew I can do anything because my parents instilled that in me, right? It doesn't have to be your mom and your dad or whatever your family looks like, but having wise counsel around you is immensely important.
Right.
So my favorite part for sure would be the aha moment. But, when people are going through challenges, in order to have an aha moment, you have to spend the time to learn yourself. And also be mindful to have wise counsel around you.
Most definitely. I love that aha moment. Even my own life, when I think I find my most aha moments when I actually fail. That's why I like failing so much. I literally, sometimes I ask for it because I'll fail and I'll be like they say, 2020. Hindsight is 2020. So I look back and I'll be like, it was right in front of my face, but either it was my ego or this or that which stopped me from getting my goal. So
right.
Definitely. And kind of wrapping this up, one of my also a burning question, I think. I had two burning questions. My last burning question, I don't think I've heard anyone ask this before. Someone, of course, has, but I don't see it too often. What is the process like becoming a psychologist? How many years in college? What type of how long are we going for? What type of classes are we taking? What's the process like?
Okay, so to become a psychologist or a therapist or a school counselor, which one are you asking about?
I think I want to know about a psychologist. That's the one I want.
Okay, so I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know the gist of exactly what they have to do. I do know to be you take different classes in school for sure than what I did. There is a school psychologist you can ask that question to. She is at Da Vinci. Her name is Jackie. But I don't have an answer to that question because I don't know.
Well, what about a therapist?
Okay, see that I can answer.
Here we go.
So in order to become a therapist, you need to have a bachelor's degree. And then you need to go through a master's program, which is generally a 2-year program, to become a marriage and family therapist. During your program, you're going to do some intern hours, right? So you're going to do maybe 200 intern hours, free work of learning how to be a therapist while you're in school. Once you exit school, you have to do 3,000 free hours, oftentimes, of therapy work, which takes about 2 years to do, or you can work for an organization that will pay you while you're doing those hours. And then once you complete your hours, then you can sit for a 2-part exam, which is your licensing exam. So once you finish your hours, you can work under someone else as a therapist. But if you ever want to have your own private practice, then you, like me, went and you'll take the test, and the test composed of 2 parts. The first is law and ethics, because you have to know what to do so that you aren't compromising someone else or doing something you shouldn't be doing. And then the second part is clinical knowledge, which is really just how do you do therapy, and then you are assessed and you become licensed and you can go help be the light. So, yeah.
Wow, that kind of hit me. The 3,000 hours made me kind of sit back and go, what? The pay part kind of, the organization, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But I feel for you for the 3,000 hours. I don't even know how long that was. You said 2
there are many people who stop.
Yeah.
So they go get their master's and then they're like, I can't do that, but anything worth having is worth working for. So if you want it, you do it.
And that's correct. And if anyone watching this really knows me and has heard the speeches I give, I tell people all the time, you cannot be obsessed with the results. Keep the results in your, in the back of your mind, but it's the process. You got to love the process, because what I realized is I would be working on something, trying to get the results, and then I'll get the results and I'll be like, yes, I finally got it. And I look back and be like, now what? I'm kind of bored. You got to love it. It's the process. You got to enjoy life, all the moments, all the failures, all the times where you're unhappy, the tears, the blood. You got to love it, even though it sucks. You want to get out of it so fast. You got to love it. Really got to love it. And I think if anyone could take anything from this conversation, you said it best with self-confidence. The self-confidence is everything. And I really hope people can pick up on that, because they'll really begin to understand how powerful they are, that the only limits that they have are the ones that they truly place on themselves. The goals that they set them so low, set them high. And if you don't know how to, reach that goal or how to get that goal, we'll figure it out along the way. You can do it, and stop doubting yourself, because as human beings, we can achieve great things. I tell people all the time, we put someone on the moon. Don't give me an excuse. We put someone on the moon. There's no excuse out there. I believe if we can do that, no excuse out there. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. Definitely. Thank you, Miss Artia Thomas. I really do appreciate it. Exciting news is.
So there's the interview, everybody. If you like this video, please subscribe and leave a like. Don't forget, if you like this stuff, man, just subscribe. That's all you got to do. Just press the red button down there. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you want to see more stuff like this, head over to our Instagram at _UASO. And if you want to find out more about us, reach us, contact us, etc., go to our website, theuaso.net. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everyone.